Um, I was reviewing the Priscilla Candace Owen debate this morning, and it got me thinking about like how there seems to be like cognitive dissonance with women who are like traditional housewives, and they also like have conservative beliefs and like don't believe in feminism or hate feminists or think that all feminists are illogical and emotional. And that's how we structure our beliefs and morals when it comes to feminism.
Finishing this weeks later, but I don't know if y'all remember the debate that Candace Owens had. It was like her versus 20 feminists or whatever, and Princella was on there, and she actually did a really good job at staying on topic because a lot of times it seemed like she would bring up a point and then Candace would like try to refute it, but like with no real evidence or by like just changing the subject somehow without like actually answering Princella's questions. And it's interesting because women my age, like in their early 20s, I know that some of them didn't grow up with an understanding of um, that grandpa was happily married, but grandma was most definitely not. Grandma was excited when her husband died because she could finally have some peace and not feel like she was walking around on eggshells. People also forget that the reason why baby boomers got the name boomer for their generation is because there were social services and safety nets in place that made it a lot easier to have a family and to um, raise children on a single income in the home. But okay, when I think of traditional housewife, when people tell me that, I'm thinking Christian housewife, um, has two kids. Um, the father goes to work all day and then comes home, and dinner's supposed to be ready. Um, and another big thing, traditional housewives were not allowed to make money outside of the home. They were not allowed to have work outside the home. In World War II, when all of the men came back from war, they had to convince women to go back into the home and to stop having a job that actually made them money. And part of the reason why I'm child free is because I realize how much work it actually is to raise children and how hard that labor is. It's strategic, routine labor that you have to do every day, 24/7, basically. When you have a kid, you don't get a day off. You know, even after that kid turns 18, you're still obligated to be a parent. And because I've heard from women who actually really enjoy being a mom and they have a good partner, they're still like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. So please only do this if you really want to do it, which is why I am child free. But I think a lot of women who are around my age, especially, that are like romanticizing being a traditional housewife who cleans and cooks all day and takes care of the children, um, they're either uneducated and do not know the history of feminism, especially the history of feminism from the 1900s. It only took like 15 years. 15 years for everyone to be like, we want to go back. We want to go back to the way it was in the 50s and the 60s. Also, another thing, y'all don't know, aren't educated enough on how many drugs these housewives were on to get through the day and to have enough energy. But I do think that moms are some of the strongest people among us, 100%. But at the same time, um, the notion that every woman should grow up to be a mom and that everyone should grow up to be a parent is dangerous because if that were the case, we would not have CPS, Child Protective Services. Children are not a right, they are a privilege, and if you have kids, it is your responsibility to educate yourself on how to raise them. Crazy, I know, but if um people, I mean, people don't even do research before they get their own pets. But if you don't do research for a pet that you're gonna have, then what makes you think that you should take care of a child? But Candace Owens is not a traditional housewife to me because she's making money outside of the home, and that was not allowed. In the 50s and 60s, women couldn't even have their own bank account without it being co-signed by a male. Um, and you need a bank account to save money. You can just keep it all in cash, which is what most women did. Um, some were safe where their husband couldn't find it because that's how women used to save up to file for divorce or to leave, is they would save up cash somewhere safe until the coast was clear to leave. But I think we're seeing the traditional Christian housewife mold being changed into non-religious contexts. That's on purpose because they want more women to give give birth, have more children, to be in the work in the machine of capitalism. And the fact that part of the reason why the birth rates are declining is from our own autonomy. It's not from this external factor or forces that are out of our control. It's actually our own decisions and control over our own bodies that have led to the birth rate decline. Um, they're gonna try all different things to make the traditional housewife archetype seem appealing to women in their early 20s because they also want you to get married young before your prefrontal cortex is developed between the ages of 25 to 30, depending on genetics and environment. But part of the facade of patriarchy is that, like, you're promised that if you become a housewife and a mom, that you'll feel totally fulfilled in life and you won't feel the need to um put any of your like ambitions, like you'll be able to put all your ambitions on pause. um but that's not how humans work, and I think most women are not fulfilled by just being a wife and a mom because women are so much more than that. We're a monolith. I meant not a monolith, lol. And so that's why the housewife archetype of just being that is so harmful because it doesn't let women explore themselves outside of being a mom and a wife. And so I think this leads into a whole nother thing about like why a lot of moms live through their children and why uh they treat their daughters versus sons differently. But that's a whole other topic.